The very first year I wanted to start my gardens from seed, I was so excited. I impulse bought all of these seeds. Then when I got the seeds, I was sitting at my table, everything was laid out. I just felt lost, overwhelmed, and frustrated instead of feeling excited. Before I even opened those packets of seeds, I felt like there were so many things I needed just to get started. Grow lights, shelvings for the seed trays, heat mats, all of it, before I could even begin. I just felt overstimulated by all of it. Instead of feeling inspired, I felt scattered, like gardening was turning into an expensive hobby that I just needed to keep up with. Then I stumbled upon winter sowing. Something about it just felt more natural. It just kind of went with nature's rhythm. Instead of me hovering over those little tiny seedlings and watching the electric bill climb, the seeds were outside, experiencing winter the way they were meant to. It wasn't about controlling the season anymore. It was about nature taking the lead and my ability to flow with it. So if you've never tried winter sowing before, this is exactly how I do it. So I live in Zone 5A in New England, and I don't plant in the beginning of winter. There's a right time for me to start these seeds. I've done winter sowing for many years, and I found a nice balance. What I find is earlier in our seasons, it's not winter from December through March like it used to be. It has a lot of fluctuations, and there's some freeze and thaws in there. So I like to start winter sowing really anytime in February, and honestly, you can winter sow right up through April. So I don't like to see the huge range in temperatures. I like to be a little more consistent. Freezing temperatures is okay. I just wouldn't want anything like below 0 and then up to like 40. So that's why I wait a little bit. Now every area is different, so you just got to pay attention to your weather. So here's a list of supplies that you'll need. First, you'll need a translucent container, a food grade container preferably, scissors, a sheetrock knife, and a drill. Soil, we're going to use potting soil for this. Obviously your seeds. I'm going to stick with cold hardy flowers and vegetables for this year. Labels and a garden marker, duct tape, water, and optional vermiculite. Since I'm doing this, one thing you'll need is plant labels. I just reuse mine. I take some rubbing alcohol and just wipe away the words from last year. So I like to use garden markers. They're designed to withstand the temperatures and the precipitation versus just using a permanent marker. Worth the investment, not that much. Then we'll need some kind of translucent container, a food grade container. I like to use milk jugs, or this is like a water jug. You can use soda containers, or sometimes I just like to use like berry containers from the grocery store. I've used like spinach containers, anything that's like translucent where the sun will be able to enter. Along with the milk jugs, I've seen some people use like Ziploc bags and put drainage holes in the bottom. I can't really speak on that. I've never done it before. So there's a lot of videos out there, and there's a lot of different ways describing winter sowing and different methods. So I just suggest you just do what's best for you and what gets you planting seeds. So then we'll want to be able to cut into the container and put drainage holes in the bottom. So for that, we can use scissors, sheetrock knife, or a drill. I tend to find scissors and sheetrock knife work the best for me. So for winter sowing, we'll want to use potting soil instead of seed starting mix because these plants will be in the containers until it's ready to go in the ground. There's no up potting. We don't fertilize. We just kind of put them outside and leave them alone. So the seed starting mix won't have as many nutrients as the potting soil does. That's why we'll use potting soil. And then we'll need our seeds. Can't start plants without the seeds. So I'm going to winter sow some cold hardy flowers today. I haven't had the best luck with like warmer plants that like warmer temperatures, such as basil and peppers. I don't know if I'm just too cold where I live for those ones, so I'm going to stick with the more cold hardy flowers and vegetables for winter sowing. They have the ability to withstand the colder temperatures versus like zinnias, sunflowers, basil, peppers. I think so. I've had volunteer tomatoes come up before, and they are warm loving. So I feel like tomatoes would be okay. I don't know. We'll see. I think I might just stick with the cold hardy vegetables and flowers for this year. And then we'll need some water. After we're done planting our seeds, I like to use vermiculite on top just to act as a moisture barrier. It helps hold the moisture in a little bit better, especially for surface sown seeds. But that's optional. So before the plants are even ready to go outside, we need to close the container back up. And in order to do that, I just use duct tape. Some people use packing tape. I just find duct tape holds up better to the elements where I live. I like that best. So now we'll prep the container. You want at least 3 to 4 inches of soil, enough for the root development of the plants and enough nutrients for the plants to get through for the next few months. So 3 to 4 inches is a good amount. So I will cut just under this handle of the milk jug, and I will leave a gap this far so it acts as like a hinge. Don't worry about it being perfectly straight. Mine rarely is. I should have grabbed bigger scissors too. Voila. Now we'll want to put drainage holes in the bottom. Or just a sheetrock knife. I like to use that. I do at least 4 on the bottom to have good drainage. So I like to put drainage holes up the side too, so there's extra areas if moisture needs to escape. Now our container's prepped. And if you use like a berry container, they already have drainage holes in the bottom. You also want the cover off of this because you want snow and rain to be able to get in here to water our plants. So if you're using a container that doesn't have it, you can always put holes on the top for moisture to enter. We want to pre-moisten the soil, as with any seed starting, that way not to disrupt where we put the seeds. We kind of want them to stay in place. And then doing that will decrease the air pockets and that sort of thing. So now our soil is pre-moistened. We want it to be like a snowball. A couple droplets of water dripping out. It's holding its form like that snowball shape. You don't want it soupy and you don't want it too dry. So that's perfect. I like to plant my seeds on a tray. This is just a tote cover. That way, because there will be like water, it just makes less of a mess. It's easier to carry the milk jugs outside, especially if I'm doing more than one. This next part is kind of up to you. You can make your labels first. You can fill the container. This is a container from last year. So at the end of the season, I rinsed it out and then I sanitized it using a 10% bleach solution to decrease any risk of diseases and or pests to carry over from previous years. So I'm just going to fill this up 3 to 4 inches, pack it down as we're going, not too tightly. I've been stingy with the soil in previous years and it's not worth it. Seeing the moisture on the edge of the containers is perfect. That's exactly what we want. So I have 6 containers prepped. Let's fill out our labels. On the front, I just write what it is. If you want to learn the botanical name, you can write the botanical name. On the back, I write the date and any facts I want to know, like when I'm planting this out, instead of going back to the seed packet, I'll put the spacing And if you want to know if the soil and sun requirements, you can put that on there as well. We will also label the outside of the containers. I like to do both just as a fail-safe, just in case anything happens to one of the labels. All right, first up is Bells of Ireland. I'm going to follow the planting instructions on the back. And for these cooler flowers, I'm hoping to get them in the ground before the last frost. So in like another month or so, hopefully. So I might overplant these ones. Hopefully I can divide them when they're seedlings. That's the goal. So it just says surface sow for these. So I'm just going to scatter these around. Bells of Ireland, make sure the label matches what you're planting. Buplorum is next. So these need to be covered with a 1/4 inch of soil. So I'll just surface sow these and then just cover the tops with the soil. Again, I'm just going to scatter these around. If I was doing something larger like zucchini or any sort of squash, I would maybe only put like 4 in a milk jug, just because those plants get really big. Now we have Corinth or Corinthi, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. 1/4 inch deep for these. We'll do the same. My hands are getting dirty. Then we have hollyhock, 1/8 to a 1/4 inch on these. These get big, but the seed is older, so I'm just going to use what I have left. Nicotiana. This is a 1/4 inch seed depth. We might have a lot of these. Holy cow. Okay. Last, delphinium. A 1/4 inch for these as well. This part is optional. I like to cover mine with some vermiculite. It helps with moisture retention. I just use a medicine cup or any sort of cup. I'm just going to cover the top of these. Also helps can help with any fungal disease or anything like that, like dampening off. Now I'm going to water these in. We already pre-moistened the soil, so I'm not going to use a watering can. I don't want to flood the containers. I have this mister here, so it just gives a gentle mist to water everything in on the top. Now let's tape them closed. We just want to make sure there's not too much moisture that will escape these. Now what I'm going to do before I get too far, because we have 6 of them, I don't want to get anything confused. I label the outside as well. I used to label the top of the milk jug up here, and that got messy every year trying to find the same one. I didn't like that. I guess you could take it off with a rubbing alcohol, but now I just like to write it on the actual duct tape, so that way that part is disposed of every year. So this is Nicotiana. The date. I write scatter, because I just scatter the seeds around. Sometimes I'll write, if I do like 4 holes and 2 seeds per hole, so I'll put 4H2S for 4 holes, 2 seeds. I didn't do a very good job taping this one up. It's hard when I got so many going at once. Might be easier to do one at a time. And that's it. We'll go put these outside somewhere in a sunny location where we'll be exposed to the elements and where we'll keep an eye on it. We'll also keep it close-ish where we'll keep an eye on it. We don't want it so far away where we're not going to pay attention to it. So they will live outside in a sunny area where it will get snow and rain. One of them I dumped, I don't know if you saw, but hopefully it'll do okay. And as the snow melts, sometimes it gets a little wobbly. Maggie, don't! Sometimes it'll get a little wobbly as the snow melts, so I'll just be sure to make sure they stay upright. And we'll check for moisture levels. You'll see moisture condensation towards the top of the milk jug, and you know we have good moisture content. You can pick it up, see if it's heavy, if it needs water, you can water it. I like to keep it close to the house so that way I will keep track of it. Winter sowing is great too because it doesn't take up as much space as it doesn't take up any space in the house. And once we plant it, it's essentially hands off. So it's great. I love it very much. And I do start a lot of seeds inside, so I'm not discounting indoor sowing. This is just another way to start seeds. I hope this helps you want to winter sow. And if you do or have any tips or tricks, I'd love to hear. And take care. Be well. Bye-bye. Come on, Maggie.